popping the question, saying yes, and preparing for your wedding is such an exciting time. And there's so much to do from planning for your wedding and planning for your marriage. But in that in-between time, what do you do with that time? Before I get into all that, let me welcome you back to my channel. My name is Ayana, and this is Beyond Committed, where we talk about everything from life, faith, family, marriage, motherhood, and everything in between, and we take them beyond. If this is your first time here, welcome, and I'm so glad you stopped by. And to make sure you're not a stranger, make sure you press the subscribe button below and then turn your notifications so you don't miss a video. All right, now let's dive right in. Remember when Eric and I first got engaged. It was so exciting, and it was such a surprise to me because, you know, he was visiting from out of town. We were long distance at the time, and it was just dinner. So I'm like, okay, we're going to dinner, you know, whatever. I wasn't expecting anything, although we had a few talks about, okay, I want this relationship to be going in a more positive direction, like going from girlfriend to fiance to then wife. But he gave me no indications about, you know, what he was thinking or what this visit was going to entail. But I'm happy to say that, you know, he was giving it a lot more thought than I knew, and he popped the question and I said yes. So over the 14 months from me saying yes to I do, there was a lot of things that we did. Some things we did right, some things we wish we could do over. So it's so important that as we've learned from that time, and we've learned from the last 14 years of marriage, is to share with others. So we came up with 5 things that we wish all engaged couples should know, so they can not just be planning for their picture perfect wedding, but having the marriage of their dreams.
So one of those things that you can do is start the journey of becoming one, getting on the same page, right? So oftentimes we know when you get married and you say I do, and it talks about, especially in the word, right, to becoming one flesh, right? What does that mean? And so at the end of the day, it's about sharing your perspectives, your visions, coming together as one in terms of your goals, your ambitions. Like, what do you think about your relationships in terms of your family, your friends? There's going to be some shifts in things that happen, right? How are you guys managing money individually, collectively, coming together? Do we need a shared account? Are we going to have a separate account? Where are we going to live? Who has this amount of debt, that amount of debt? What do we want to do, right? These types of conversations that you may have in a very lighthearted way, I think, but not totally focused because, again, the big day is approaching and coming. But I would encourage you to do that because it'll be less bumpy in theory at the marriage, or you actually may discover that, whoa, there might be some non-negotiables in there you need to manage.
Yeah. And it is so important that you have those real conversations about the real things, not the hypothetical things that we all have. You know, well, what if this happened? What would you do if? No, this is the situation. What do we do? Like, you have to have those real conversations early and often so that when the time comes, it's not a surprise to anybody. And I would say, especially like the easiest one to kind of talk about in kind of real time is like finances. And that's the hardest thing to talk about because money is funny. Especially like when you're younger, when you're trying to figure things out, or, you know, starting your career, having to restart your career or whatever. I mean, everybody's money journey and everybody's like mindset and thoughts on money is not the same. So it's so important that you have those real conversations and you make sure you're on one accord, realizing that the way we may manage our money may be different from you, and that's okay. But making sure that you're managing your money together is so important, because just because, you know, you do things one way and he does things one way doesn't mean you can't like merge those two ways to make them work for you. It doesn't mean that it has to look like somebody else's marriage or somebody else's situation. So it's so important that when you are engaged and planning for the I do, making sure you are mindful and planning to become one is so important, because once you're one, there's a lot of things you're gonna have to contend with, and it's so much easier for you to start that journey early. And another thing that all engaged couples should do is to make sure you are creating a spiritual life together and creating a prayer life together, because it is so important that you both have your individual walks, your individual relationship with God. But God should be at the center of your marriage. And for you to have that, you have to be intentional about working towards it. So that means you have to do things together to make sure that you are working towards that together. Allowing God to cover you, allowing God to be at the center of your relationship means that you both have to come together to put him first.
Yeah, and I would say, there are a number of things you can do practically, right, in terms of, going to church together, worshiping together, praying together, other practical things in terms of devotionals, right, reading the word together, certain films that you watch or connecting with other people, all of that can kind of create a greater, healthier spiritual bond and relationship, I think is key and essential in terms of your growth as well.
And I know one thing that I wish we did while engaged, but something that we did soon after getting married was join like a marriage small group. And you may not be, admitted to the marriage small group before you get married. Everybody got their rules and regulations or whatever. But there's different types of small groups and different types of groups that you can get in while you're engaged for you to just, be poured into, for you to be loved on, and for you to start building that community around you. Because when you get married and that two has become one, yes, it is you two together, but it's also you need a village around you to kind of support and love on you. So it's so important that you start that early, and starting with your spiritual walk together and being surrounded by other couples who are also drawing closer to God is a great way to do that. And another thing that all engaged couples should be mindful of and start doing is start dreaming together and actually create vision boards together. Because before you got engaged, before you even knew each other, you both had dreams and aspirations, things you wanted to do, goals you wanted to achieve. And although you're on your way to I do, and even once you get married, that doesn't mean they'll stop. You are both still two individual people that has created this union. Now you're one, yes, but you both still have your own thoughts, dreams, and aspirations. But it's so important that in your process, in your walk, that you are also doing things together and creating a vision board and creating dreams and goals together is so important for you to be mindful of, not just when you're married, but on your way to saying I do.
Yes, indeed. And I think it's also important because it serves as like a reference point, a guide, right? So when you have challenges or obstacles and things get a little blurry, you can't see clearly, going back to that vision board or what you've written down wherever, right, in terms of what you share together and your individual goals, but also collectively as a couple, I think will also be of value to you and helpful to where it's like, where is this going directionally? And you kind of say, okay, we're headed in the right direction, or, oh, we need to refocus here or on that. So it's a good tool.
Yeah. And then we also created another video about creating your own vision board, and it's our family vision board, and we use the same process to create a marriage vision board, so make sure you check that out. Because on your journey in life, on this marriage journey, you will get off track sometimes, and you will be like, you think this is a good idea, this is something we should do, and then you kind of start going over there, and then you're like, ooh,
the drift.
Like, how did we end up here? Is this the right place? Sometimes it's not. So coming back to that vision board, coming back to those goals, coming back to that time to where you two decided this is what we want to do will help you kind of either redirect, refocus, or realize that maybe your dreams and visions have changed and maybe we do need to continue on this path and maybe we just need to update our vision.
One of the other things that we want to share with you is the importance of learning to listen to wise counsel without allowing them to make the decision for you. So what do I mean by that, right? We all have friends, family, mentors, coaches, therapists, etc., right? A whole gang of folks, right, that are wise that we can look to for advice and information, but it's important that you take that diverse collective information and process it for yourself and your own individual situation and circumstances, and not solely relying upon your own perspective or your own feelings to kind of operate and drive your decision making.
And with not, following it to the T, realizing that everybody has different perspective. Everybody has a different walk. Everybody is unique. So it's so important that you take that information, you use that wise counsel, but realizing that how you use it and if you use it is totally up to you. God created you both individually, uniquely, with wisdom and discernment and talents and gifts and knowledge that you need to use to walk out the path he has for you. So yes, it's important that we take all the tools, the tips, and the tricks. I know I have what I call a wifey toolbox. Things that I have learned, different tips and tricks I've learned along the way that kind of help me to be a better wife. Some of them I used immediately because I'm like, oh, I need to start doing that now so I can be a better me and I can be a better wife to him. But some of those tools I've kind of just put in the toolbox for to use at a later date. And some of those tools I'm like, that's great advice for somebody else. So it's so important that we are mindful of the advice we get, but realizing that not all advice may be for you at that time, or it just may not be for you at all. So it's so important that as you take all the advice, the tips, the tricks, and the tools that you gain from those around you, and even from us, realizing that you have to use the wisdom and discernment that God has given you to make sure you are walking it out in the way that God wants you to do in your own marriage and in your own way.
Amen.
And one of the last things that's so important for all engaged couples to be intentional about and make sure you're doing is to make sure you are creating a healthy dating lifestyle, not just for your engagement, but for you to carry into your marriage, because dating is important. I mean, you couldn't get to saying yes to the ring if you hadn't dated him along the way. And having a healthy, happy marriage means you're going to have a healthy and happy dating lifestyle. Because as you grow, as you change, as things happen, as you add new people to your family, as you go in different careers, or as you kind of just navigate life together and you kind of just grow, it's so important that you are being intentional about dating each other, being intentional about having fun together, because marriage should be fun. And in order for you to have those experiences, in order for you to do things together, you actually have to create a lifestyle which makes it so that it is a part of what you do.
Yeah, and I would say as you continue to grow and mature as an individual and in your relationship and your marriage, right, there will be so many great things that come about that then compete for your time, for your energy, that infringe on you having this healthy dating lifestyle, right? And so it may feel impersonal at times to be able to have to schedule time for a breakfast date, lunch date, dinner, what have you. But I think it's very important that you invest the time so that you then can still have these windows of opportunity where you can do something spontaneous as well.
Yeah, and then also realizing that you being intentional about scheduling things in makes them matter. Because if you look at your schedule, you put everything else on there. I mean, you put whether you got to go to work or go to the gym or do all the things in which you're going to do. So why can't you make sure that your dating life within your marriage is also penciled in? All right, that's it for today. And I want to know, what's one thing you wish you did when you were engaged? Let us know in the comment box below. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and make sure you press the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a video. All right, now, until we see you again, bye.
Peace.